the time when we say that we are going to wait for others to maybe start joining in, it will like take much of our time. So with us, we have Dennis Kaduri is one of our instructors. I think we'll allow, I think other instructors as well will be joining us, and we'll allow them to speak maybe at the end of the session. So yeah, so what are we going to learn today? So also maybe you confirm that you can see my screen. Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So today we are covering asynchronous JavaScript. So this is almost the last topic in our JavaScript 101. And I think this like the part of whereby people always like feel like, okay, this is what they always feel as a challenge. But I hope that at the end of this session, we are going to make it simpler so that we are able to understand what do we mean by asynchronous JavaScript? How do we handle asynchronous code or asynchronous operations? So welcome all of you, and I hope for a fruitful session. So okay, in our second slide, we have the things that we'll cover. The things that we'll cover includes callbacks. So when we talk about callbacks, we have things like how do you want to write a callback, how to maybe execute a very simple callback, and then we also talk about a callback head. And this callback head is something that's most popular to people, but they don't use it because it has some effects or some disadvantages of using callbacks. Callback as in maybe when you try to maybe execute different or a number of codes that are calling itself. So that's a thing that we should also discuss and why we should not use callback and maybe go for promises. So promises is another is a ES6 syntax that came in, or some ES6 features that were added in 2015. So it was a new way on how maybe you can handle asynchronous code. So maybe we start by maybe defining what does it mean to say that something is asynchronous. So JavaScript is said to be single-threaded, like it executes maybe one piece of code at a time. And yeah, as they execute one single piece of code, it cannot maybe execute more than one piece of code. So it has maybe to finish executing one, then it goes for the other. And also, JavaScript is a language that executes from top to bottom. Maybe only for the instance that maybe we have functions whereby you can call our functions anywhere, because we always hear that functions are first-class citizens in JavaScript. So uh, those are the things when we talk about asynchronous JavaScript. So it's how we can handle now more operations. Like JavaScript is a single threaded, like it can only handle one piece of operation at a time. But it provides also a way or a technique on how you can handle several maybe processes or maybe codes that executes at a time also. I should also be talking about how now you use the promises and the async await. So we'll implement the async and await by fetching data from an API, and how it makes it easy for us maybe to handle or maybe waiting for some process to take place. Okay, let's begin. We'll go for the slides, and then I'll be exchanging between slides and demonstration of code. And yeah, I think maybe you can still inform our colleagues maybe to join us for the meeting, because I still see the number is still low. So maybe somebody maybe still can maybe tell or inform them to join the meeting, and yeah. So a callback, what are callbacks? So a callback is a function in JavaScript that is passed as an argument to another function, and is called after maybe a main function has finished executing. So this is a way now, like, okay, this in this example, or maybe this explanation, it's maybe talking of blocking or non-blocking code. So sometimes people would wish to have some application running as an unblocking, and sometimes you would wish to have your application running to be a blocking. So like when you talk about a blocking application, it's an application that maybe you allow. Let's take an example of an e-commerce website like Jumia, for example. When somebody goes there to maybe have to buy some stuff in an online platform, until that customer pays for something or pays for the product that he or she ordered, then the next process of maybe delivering the items begins. So that's maybe how you can have that's like a callback. So like, okay, finish, complete maybe paying your stuff, and then you can maybe start executing or delivering a product. So that's how callbacks operate. Yeah, I think there are more explanation also on the slide, and I'll be sharing also the slides to everyone so that maybe you can still also go and check out what are callbacks. Yeah, we have so many things why when we should do this callback. Maybe some other operations why maybe callbacks are very important is when maybe you are handling some input or output operations or database querying or network request. For example, when you're having an application that's maybe large, so there's a way in which some callbacks will have to maybe execute some other operations, and while other operations are executing, you'll be like, okay, I would wish others to continue as well. So I'll be also bringing you another session on the JavaScript engine to maybe understand how JavaScript maybe executes, so that we can understand how the engine itself is going to convert the code that we write. Maybe when you write let a is equals to 10, what happens when you try and execute something as a console.log? Then you can now see how JavaScript handles the asynchronous states or asynchronous code. So let's have a session today, like I already talking about callbacks, understanding promises. Say that when we come with that session, it will be much easier for us maybe to understand how JavaScript really executes, and that would be the beginning of you understanding, or maybe you maybe getting to like love JavaScript by understanding how it operates. So yeah, real life examples of what callbacks are. Maybe what they do. Maybe when sometimes you're in a website, you can see images loading. So what's happening is that the page is other contents are showing as the as you see the page like it's loading because they are waiting for the images to be ready to be displayed. And then maybe when you're handling form submissions, you can see that your page, like there's a way in which it does not break. So it has to wait for that action to complete before it takes to the next page. Yeah, let's demonstrate that, and then we shall be back to discuss what a callback does. So with that, let me share my entire screen so that we can visualize what we have from our Visual Studio Code. So I hope my entire screen is now visible. So I've just created a JavaScript file that is calling back this mimic to mimic. Maybe just let's write a simple callback, maybe to see what it does. Uh, and a callback function. So it's a function. So and we already covered maybe how a function is maybe being declared and used, so we have to use the keyword function. So I'll try to mix up. I'm using the keyword function. I'm also using the arrow functions as well, because we have the older way how to write functions and we have the new way with the ES6 of how to write functions. So let's say a function do homework. So a function do homework. It takes some arguments. So let's say this person doing the homework taking a subject, and in there we're going to pass a callback. So these are just a naming convention. So we can rename. It's not a must that we must have this as a callback. We can rename it the way we want it. So let's maybe console.log what somebody is doing. That is this is a backtick. So we also talked about the use of a backtick when you want to access some kind of of a variable or something like that. So maybe you say starting my, so use the story before using that. So we have to use the ampersand. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong one. Yeah, exactly. Then maybe you call the subject that was passed as an argument, and then so starting my subject, we shall pass what the subject is, and then my homework. So homework. So these are very simple console will look like when we call the function do homework, it's going to execute the subject that this person is doing. So when we were saying like, okay, let's have a callback over here, like, so this how to invoke a callback. Like, okay, after this person has completed, maybe after doing the homework, after some time, maybe we'll have some set timeout or something like that. Then we'll call another function. So just a simple callback. We'll have write a function, or maybe yeah, a function that will take some some operations. Let's call that function um, finished homework. So the finished homework is another function. And let's console.log. So when we call this function, it's gonna say finished my homework. So we want now, like after execution of the first piece of code, I want this piece of code to be executed. So how can we do this? So because we have passed, this is a callback. So we've taken the callback first as an argument in the first function, then we are invoking the callback. Okay, so after invoking, so we have to like to also call this main. So this is the main function. So within a callback, there will be a main function. So we'll have to call that function that is to do homework. So when you call that function, it's going to take two arguments because we defined them at the top. So it's going to take a subject. So let's make the subject to be like a math. And also it's going to take another argument. So another argument is a callback. So let's take this as our callback and have it here. So what will happen after execution of this code? We'll expect that after executing it, we'll have the first execution that is starting my math homework and then finished my homework to be executed because you've passed the second function as a argument. So let's try running this. Open it on Git bash. Okay, today we'll be executing more stuff on the terminal. Maybe when we fetching data from any PA, we shall try visualize them on a browser. So sitting in the right place or not. So you can see starting my math homework, and then after some time, maybe you have the second one finished my homework. So this is how you can write a callback. And these are the things that we discussed earlier in our sessions of how to write a callback. So it was just a reference so that you can remember how to write a callback. So let's talk about a callback here. So we just derived maybe one of or maybe we have just talked about writing a single callback. So what about if I want now, like, let me take you the code first. So what if I would want to maybe have a series of tasks? Let's say I have a task from task 1 to maybe 5. So maybe say, okay, after completing the first task, I want you to do the second one. After completing the second one, do the following third one, fourth one, fifth, you see? So that's the kind of a thing I want to do with a callback. So that will bring to an event known as a callback held. So yeah. So and the feature that we want to see in a callback held, we want to see this kind of a pyramid or a Christmas tree thing that is going to show up. Maybe if we try to write a callback held. So let's think there's no more slides on callback file. Yeah. the callback here. Yeah, I think can go to the demo. So let me create another file known as call l.js. So this is another file. So I'll be sharing also a link to my GitHub, maybe so that somebody who wants to get these codes can have them. So I'll be creating almost 5 tasks, maybe that I want them to be executed with a callback. That after the first task, the second task will be called to execute, and the second task will take responsibility of calling another task as well. So we have a const. I'm defining task 1. So today let's use an arrow function. So an arrow function is how we say we are defining an arrow function. So first task, we want to just console out the first task, or maybe starting a task. So console.log and say started maybe first task started task 1. This is better because we shall be rating a lot of them. So after maybe starting the first task, we want to write another, maybe we want to set timeout that will take for somebody to complete the first task. So there's another method that is set set timeout, set time interval, set timeout. I think it's been feeling it for me. I didn't want this way. Okay. So set timeout, I want it to complete after maybe 2 seconds. So I'm writing it in 2000 milliseconds. So it's same as 2 seconds. And I want maybe in the set timeout, there's something wanting to happen or to log something to the console that is maybe completed first. So this code will take 2 seconds so that it can execute this code. So first thing that we'll expect is that we'll have the first one being executed first, and then it will take 2 seconds for this to execute. So let's try it out first to check if that's working. So we'll have to call a function. So always remember that after maybe defining a function and also having all this, it will not run until maybe you have to call or to invoke that function. Yeah, so let's use it. So let's run node lc started task 1, and after 2 seconds, you see completed first task. So maybe to visualize more, maybe somebody would want to see what happened. Let me clear this console. Okay, so maybe I want this to execute after 5 seconds. So you just run the same same code. See, after 5 seconds, we'll expect the first task to be completed. So this is how you handle maybe this is now the times asynchronous JavaScript comes in. So I want now to maybe have a number of tasks that are in here. So I want to have second task, the third one, fourth. So because I'll be having 5, why can I just copy and paste all the 5 here? So, and I'll be having a callback. Let me define them here, a callback. So, and I hope I'm not confusing anyone. So this is just the naming convention. You can give anything, but let's just stick with the convention that you will find on other codes. So maybe this is call this callback. So the first, sorry, because of defining a callback here, you must also define a callback as a argument in the first function. So let's have a second task. So I'll just have to copy this. Just here, I'm just having to have the second one, the third one, fourth, and the fifth one. So just renaming it. So the first one, this will be the second task. Maybe starting task 2, completed second task. And these I wanted to execute after maybe 2 seconds, because the first one will execute after 5 seconds. I want this to be task 3. So name this the task 3. Also completed task 3. I'm also calling another callback. Okay. This is task 4. Okay, and if I'm first, please somebody can unmute and maybe tell me that I'm going that so fast. So this task 4 started. Yeah, maybe task 4. Let me close this so that everybody can see the screen. And is the screen visible that somebody is not struggling to see the screen? Maybe you can confirm that as well.
Your screen is fine, Kimbo. You can continue.
Okay, thank you. So this is the 5th task, and maybe you say starting the 5th task here. So I'm just renaming things so that I can be fast, maybe typing all this. So completed the 5th task. So this is almost the same with the first one, but I want this one to maybe complete after 1 second. The fourth one, I want it to complete after maybe 6 seconds. So we are just defining some kind of something that you can demonstrate. So we can also give this at 3 seconds, the fifth one. So we define almost 5 things that I want us to handle them. So using callbacks. So we're going to define and you'll see like what does it mean to say a callback here. So we've defined functions, but we are not calling them. So if I'll try maybe to execute this, nothing will happen by the way, because whenever you don't call a function, nothing will happen. So let's call those functions. So we'll have task 1, and I'll begin with this. So I'm trying to call the function. Uh, so I'm going to have a function minutes. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Let's continue. So we're having task 1. So we're trying to call the first. So after the first task, the first task on after maybe execution of it, I want to call the second task. So you'll have task 2. So we just call it because it's a callback. This is how you will call them. Okay, after completion of the second task, I want the task 3 to happen. So I hope you're very clear what's happening. Maybe I can still zoom in. Yep. So we have a zoom in, and then we have another callback over there. So we are saying, okay, what's happening is that I'm saying that after you complete the first task, go for the second task. To completing the second task, go for the third one. So also after completing the third one, just the same, we are going for the fourth task. So I'm going to, so after completion of the fourth, I want us to go to the fifth task. So we are defining a callback here. So this is how I'm defining them. When you see I'm using an arrow function, it makes things even more cleaner. If I was using the other function, it would make maybe me type a lot of things. So after maybe the fifth task is maybe executed, I want to also type something next that maybe all tasks complete. Okay, I think can now execute this code, then also still give more clarity of what has happened. So when we talk about a callback here, we talk of something like a Christmas tree or some kind of a shape. So look at what is happening here. So we're having something that is a V shape, but it's horizontal. Yeah. So this is what we call a callback here. And I will discuss maybe what if I had more than 100 operations. You'll see I'll be calling another function after another function after another function. And that will even result to maybe me making some errors or maybe mistakes. So let's try and execute this. Okay, let me clear the terminal. Then what's the name of the file? So we say node the whole file. You see start first task, take 5 seconds. completed first task, and then second task, completed second task, third, fourth, the fifth, so we are waiting for the fifth, the fourth is complete, the fifth started, completed, and then all tasks are complete. I will try to explain the code also for like for somebody that maybe this is the first time to see a callback, and maybe to give more explanation, say that it will be a game for all of us. So this was our first function that we defined, and we said that a callback is like a function that's maybe after you complete executing something, want you to do something else. And I gave an example of an e-commerce website whereby a customer has to pay for something before the delivery maybe starts to maybe to be processed. So if a customer does not pay something, the delivery is not going to take place. So this is like saying, okay, after you complete the first task, I want you to call the second task. So that's why you see this one has a callback. And let me go to the other part when we are calling it. So this way we are defining a function, and then this function was calling another function. So this other function is passed as an argument of the first function. So how was it passed as an argument? By calling it up here, maybe passing this as an argument. Yeah. So after 5 seconds, the second task will be called, and the second task will take 2 seconds. After 2 seconds, it will call this other function, which will take 1 second. After 1 second, it is going to call the fourth task, going to call the fifth, which will take 3 seconds. And this is how we are calling them and wrapping them. So this is a callback end. Yeah. So far so good. I hope everything is going on well. Maybe some explanation. So, okay, let's now, we want to dive into understanding what are promises. And before maybe we learn what are promises, we want to know why callbacks, why can't we like only use callbacks and avoid using other things like promises, because it seems to be a lot of things that you're going to learn. So the things that made promises to be preferred more than the callback was because of maybe the readabilities. For example, you can check from the code that you've written, you can see I'm calling so many things that it makes somebody who never written this code struggle a bit to understand what is happening. So when we write a promises, we're going to increase our readability. So and when you write a promise, we're going to handle errors, but you can see maybe, let's go back to the code. A promise is going to like I'm going to define what's a promise. A promise has a way of how you can handle maybe an error. Let's say, for example, the first task faces an issue. It will break the application. Maybe after 5 seconds, the first task faces an error. So it will not call another function because it was not executed, you see? So that's why a callbacks are not preferred. So we have other things like code separation. So we cannot separate this code because they have to maybe align itself. Have to be like you cannot differentiate between them. And then we have the composition. Composition is really how things are. Like you can check how these things are. They are like messy. So that's why they are called the callback tail. Let's introduce what are promises, because I also promised that I'm using promise to. I've also promised to also teach something on promises. Come on to the conclusion. I'm sorry. So let me just have to, because I never written those stories. I want to talk about promises. Let me just say it. What are promises and why should we write a promise? I have a scenario. Let's say, for example, somebody, let's say he has a friend known as Njoki, who is my friend, and Njoki promised me that if I'm going to pass an exam, she's going to buy me a laptop, right? So that's a promise. She already made a promise that indeed, when I pass that exam, she'll buy me a laptop. So, okay, which means that if I'll pass the exam and Njoki does not buy me a laptop, the maybe the promise was not fulfilled. So she will not have fulfilled her promise. I'm not saying maybe I don't pass the exam, I'll not get the laptop, because the condition was if you pass that exam, you will get a laptop. So that's exactly the same thing that happens with promises. Okay, I think somebody has unmuted. Maybe you can ask a question. Okay, if maybe you don't have any question, maybe you can mute. Maybe mute that person because okay, let's continue. So I was giving a scenario, what's a promise? And now let's now take promises to maybe now coding or JavaScript itself. So promises will always have two things. So a promise will always have a reject or a resolve. Let me create a file of promises. So a promise will always have two parts, like we have discussed. It's a promise is either going to be fulfilled or not going to be fulfilled. So when a promise is going to be fulfilled in JavaScript, or maybe you are fetching data from an API, and then the promise is maybe the API is, or maybe what you are fetching is given to you, you say that it has been resolved. So that person has delivered what was expected of him. And then if that maybe the data that you are waiting did not arrive, maybe because of some errors, that's because we can say that condition is a reject, that we were not able like to get it. So we're going to run a reject. So it's just like a callback, not a callback, but it's going to take two arguments. That's a resolve and a reject. Let's introduce. So enough of much talking. Let me create another file and let me call this into to promise.js. Okay, let me close the other one. So let's introduce promises. So, okay, let's introduce. So how to write a promise, first of all, because, maybe somebody is a beginner, maybe writing promises. How will you do that? So we'll have to, define a variable that's have to maybe have a promise. So let's call it promise one. This is not a convention, by the way, this is my variable naming. So let me call this promise one or promise one. Let me call it promise one. And then we say we call a new promise. So this is a new promise. And maybe to emphasize that this is this p is not an our p. So it's not the same as the other one that is that's a variable. So the other one is, you can see this p is the, what do we call it? The a bigger one. I don't know. Okay, and then it's going to take two things. So it's going to take two arguments, that is the resolve and the reject. So let's pass those things and we have the reject. So I'm going to take this very slowly because they are very important and you'll find maybe yourself using this as a developer. So so in this code, I want to execute something. So we just use, because it's simple something, we introduce something of promises. I want to write a simple thing and then we'll write more complex promises. And then after that, we'll now dive into what's as async and await. So let's set the timeouts. Um, the set timeout is what's an inbuilt function in JavaScript that is going to maybe say like, okay, before we execute maybe the first function, that is maybe the first function, this before like it executes it, we want it to maybe take a given time before it executes. So let's say this one takes 5 seconds. So I want to keep it in 5 seconds because you are going to see the delay of it, like it's going to delay for 5 seconds. So maybe after 5 seconds, I want to resolve. So I want to resolve, sorry, I'm writing it caps, sorry. So I want to resolve that something simple, because this is a simple promise. I want to say success. Yeah, it's a success after 5 seconds. So let me go and maybe call the promise, and maybe, so how we do that is by invoking the name. So we store it in a variable known as promise one. So I'm trying to invoke that promise. So it's promise one dot. Then, so this is going to execute the resolve. So whenever this promise is going to be given to us back, so the dot then is going to execute. And, it's going to take some kind of a value. So like I want to access what we give in here. So I'm going to give something like a value. You can change it, you can call it data. So let me call it a value. Yeah, from then maybe take it as a arrow function. While we're having some errors, okay, let me just console.log. So here we're going to pass in the value. So we're having an issue here. Okay. Promise that then why are we having this unexpected that? Okay, oh, this is the problem. No, I think it's okay. What's happening? What's happening? Check what I'm missing. Oh, yeah, I think it's because I'm not calling the reject. No. So promise one is equals to new promise. Going to resolve or reject and then set timeouts. Going to resolve second promise. Why am I not seeing an error? Maybe somebody can help me find what I'm missing out. Promise dot then. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I have identified it here. Okay. So okay. So it was the value. Okay, I'm sorry. So dot then is going to maybe have a value. So we sometimes end up in this kind of error. So I was supposed to give it this way. Yeah. Okay. So then we console.log the value itself. So what it was in the result. So I think this is going to execute. So I had other bracket inside the value. So with this, I think I'm in the intro. So I'm going to write node intro to that. After 5 seconds, we're waiting something like success to be given. Yeah, I see success. So which means so this was just a maybe how you can write promises. So let's talk about now using the resolve and the reject at the same time, and maybe how now are we going to handle reject. So we have handled resolved by using the then. So we want to handle reject. So what are we going to use? We are going to use the catch. So let me commit out this and then work on the second part of it. So I'm trying to write more promises. So this was just a definition of it. So I'm going to say const yeah, promise two. Promise, I'm sorry, I'm writing it in. So promise two equals to new promise. Okay, new promise. And it's going to take two arguments, that's the resolve, and the reject. Okay, so we have defined our promise. So, okay, what we want to handle both of them. So the time we are going to handle both of them is maybe we are now using an if statement or something like that. Maybe if the promise is not resolved, what happens? So we have to execute the else statement. So let's say you are maybe doing an exam, right? So maybe say let as first test it has passed the test is equals to true. Yeah, I want to start by passing the exam so that I can get the laptop. And then we go to run the second one, say if has passed the test is true, I want now to resolve, right? So let's say invoke the solve, right? And then we're going to work on the second one, else if I did not pass the exam, we're going to run the reject. So we're going to invoke the reject. So now I'm now combining both of them, the resolve and the reject. So after defining all of this, let me go and then call or try and execute all of this. So we have a promise this is promise two dot then. So dot then we say that it's going to execute the resolve. So dot then is going to execute the resolve. So we're going to say console.log. Congratulations, you have a laptop. So congratulations. Maybe we say you have a laptop. Okay, so let's go to the second part. What if now the promise is not going to be delivered? Maybe I never passed the exam, so I'm not, Njoki, my friend is not giving me a laptop, or maybe not buying me a laptop. So I'm going to say dot then, not dot then dot catch, I'm sorry. So when you're writing promises, you'll be having two parts. The dot then is going to execute the resolve, and then dot catch is going to maybe when the promise is not fulfilled. So, okay. So we're going to say console.log. Let's say, I'm sorry. This will be a sad statement. Sorry, you can't do. You cannot have to, maybe it's on the like I'm sorry this way, sorry. Not have, you cannot have a gift. I think that's enough. So let's try and run this code and see what will happen. So we are not using timeout today, we are using a condition whereby if I pass the exam, so I'm going to be given a laptop. Okay, so let's run that. You say, congratulations, you have a laptop. So what if the first test was false? Okay, I'm sorry, false was false. Run it. You see, it's executing the catch block. That is, I'm sorry, you cannot have the gift. So this was writing promises, and so this was the first part of defining promises. So I want us to maybe now, we were talking about the callback here. Now, what if I have many promises? So when you have those people in life who promise you a lot. So what if somebody has many promises, and then some promises are going to be executed? Let's say, for example, I had so many promises here, like I was promised so many things. So whereby other promises are going to be maybe fulfilled, others are not going to be fulfilled. So we want to have something like a nested promise. Let me just call that name of the file, nested promise.js. Okay, I'm going to close the other one, then let's work on nested promises. So I'm going to have also almost not five tasks. Five tasks are too much for us. Let's have three tasks. So we're going to define, like the other one, what was our callback here? It was somewhere here, callback here was here. So we had almost five tasks. So we want to see how promises is better than callback here, right? So let's start maybe writing it. So maybe let's define our first task. So task one is going to take, okay. Okay, the first task is going to return a promise. So all functions are going to return something, by the way. Like there's a day I was writing something on functions. So if you fail to maybe return something on a function, it will not always execute it. So we want now, maybe when we are calling the first task, it's going to return a promise. So let's write return. Maybe say return new promise. So and be aware that promise is not the smaller p. And then the promise is going to have two arguments, either going to be resolved. I'm not writing the spelling correct. Solve or reject. So we are going to have the resolve or the reject. And then, so we are going to use some set timeouts, so that like maybe this promise, let's assume this is a data from an API that we are calling. So it's going to take some time for it to execute. And maybe I saw that this, when this is happening, maybe you can handle something else. So you saw that callback was some kind of a way, didn't handle that. We want to handle some blocking, and at other points we want to have some non-blocking. So we want to maybe demo both of them. So we're going to say let's so maybe if somebody completes a task, we say task success is equals to, at this point, task success is equals to 2. So let's run the if condition so that we can use both resolve and reject. Okay, and if I'm fast, please somebody can unmute and maybe tell me to take it maybe a little bit slow. So if task success is equals to 2, want us to resolve something, maybe resolve. So maybe you resolve by saying task 1. Then okay, task 1 completed. Okay, I never defined my set timeout, right? Okay. Sorry, I'm sorry. Now I'm wondering why am I not seeing the time? Okay, let me just get rid of this. Then just cut this. So after defining a promise, let's pass up the set timeout so that it can take 5 seconds. I just mentioned it and I maybe never done so. Okay, then going to have this. So it's going to take 5 seconds. So I'm also having so many brackets. Okay. So it's going to take 5 seconds. So it's 5,000 milliseconds, right? Okay, and here we have, yeah, that's the correct syntax. Then we have now let's task as success is equals to true. Then maybe say if task success is equals to true, then let's resolve by saying resolve. So let's now list these things correctly because we say task 1. So you're done with that. So let's go handle the reject. So we're going to handle the reject here, else. The codes are too many. I have to handle them with kin. So we say else reject. So we're going to reject by saying if maybe this task is not completed, we say task 1 complete. Maybe give some explanation to the user that error occurred. So that is it. So this is going to execute after maybe 5 seconds. So if I was to maybe call that function over here, it's going to execute. But okay, I can do it because somebody can say, why am I not doing that? So you have to call the first one by saying task 1. So task 1 dot then. So want to execute the first task, maybe if the first task is going to execute after 5 seconds, we're going to maybe resolve that. And we had that in our introduction. Where was it? Okay, I'm sorry. So we're going to have some kind of a value. So we had something like a value that was like going to have a value. So the value, an arrow function. So okay, then we're going to say console dot log the value. So maybe dot catch. So let's again. So I think we're going to handle dot catch. So maybe you have to also write another function. I don't think we're going to handle this that way. Okay, let's execute it first. So this nested, okay, let me clear my terminal. Then say let's say node nested. This is, we're having an error. What's happening? So task one is not a function. Okay. Mm. Why am I missing the points? Okay, somebody maybe try and mute, maybe tell me where I'm making a mistake. So about the nested. Okay, we defined a promise with the other function, so it's not the same with the other one. So this is not going to work for us. So okay, we are going to handle this learn block like the learn blocks. So let's define the second task, the third one, fourth. The third one, I think that will be the last one, and then we try and maybe handle them maybe with a non-blocking way. So I'm trying to maybe execute something that with a value, and then it's not a function by itself. So, okay, so we're going to the second task. So the second task is almost the same with the first task. So we're saying the first one took almost 5 seconds. So I'm going to place another task of the same over here. So this task two is going to take, so let me name it the task two. This is two. But this one, I want it to take like 3 seconds. Yep, I think this is okay. Then let's have the last task over here. I'm pasting it. So because almost the same type. So task three, I'm just renaming it. Three. Maybe this will execute after 1 second. So we want to see what happens. Because JavaScript executes from top to bottom, we want to see how this is going to be handled. So let's start with the non-blocking one. So whereby none of the tasks are being blocked. Like every task can run asynchronously, whereby you can have task one executing the same time, task two is executing at the same time, the task three is executing. So this task three executing thing, rename them all of okay. Let's now try and maybe call those functions. So you see, the other time I was trying to maybe just call task one, maybe to execute it without having it as a function. So you always have task one. So I was not invoking it this way. So without that, it's not going to work. So dot then I want to have some kind of a variable. Let me pass something like a result. So it seems like a result. Then it's a callback. So we have the console.log. So we'll have the result. So, and maybe if this is not going to execute, we'll have dots catch. The dots catch is going to take something like an error, but these are a variable that I'm an argument that I'm passing. So anything placed there would be like an error. So it's going to reference to what you give here on the reject. So I'm just naming this as an error. I'm calling this a result, something like that. Okay, so we're going to name this maybe console.log. We want to get the error. Right, so console.log the error. So this is going to execute the first task. So I want when this is going to execute, I want to have also the second task doing the same. So I'm going to have to copy again and paste it because I'm doing the exact thing. So this is the second one, third one. Yeah, I think there were three of them. So this is going to execute the second task. So second task. This is going to be the third one. So yeah. So let's execute this and see if it's going to work. If it's not going to work, I'm going to check where the problem is. So let me clear. So let's run the nested one. So let's check what's going to happen. You see, task three is completed, and then two, and then one. So it never took the order of what we had given before. Let me rerun it again once more. So you have task three completes, two completes, one complete. So let's discuss what happened. So and then we'll now handle the blocking one. So these are not blocking way of how you can write promises. So we define our tasks. So we started by defining the first task, whereby is going to take, this task was going to take 5 seconds because we are using the set timeout function. So like after 5 seconds, this code is going to be executed. So again, this is the second task. It's going to complete after 3 seconds. This will be given as a result. Then the last one, the task 3 is going to execute in 1 second, and then it's going to be given as a result. So see how we call them. So we never nested them as a like the callback hell. So we go to handle. So this is a let me write here as a comment. These are non-blocking code. So like the first task does not prevent the second task from executing, because you see I try to maybe call them differently. Like okay, task 1, I want you to maybe invoke them first, then task 2 will like also continue. It will also execute like asynchronously. So this now the asynchronous JavaScript. So at times now these the things that I was talking about, maybe when you're loading some images on our website. So you will always have like seeing other actions taking place as well as others are taking place. So we don't want to block our things. So we also come to discuss the event loops when we try to understand how the JS engine works, how it handles maybe things like when the IO operations are taking place. So how does JavaScript like maybe use the callback queue? So that are the things I'm going to discuss. So yeah, in that session, we're going to understand how this is going to be executed. So let's now handle the blocking. So the one that I was saying, when on an e-commerce website, if a customer fails to pay, maybe the delivery process will not start. So that will be the blocking one. Blocking code. So I'm going to write the blocking code. So which means I'm going to comment, then the blocking one. So I hope we're still together. And I'll provide also a link to, as mentioned, I'll provide the link to this code so that it can be available for everyone for to learn through them. Okay, so let's talk about the other one. That is like now this now like handling it like the callback here. So be keen with this because it's some kind of tricky. So you have the task 1. So we are executing. So we have to invoke it. So after invoking the first task, I want it to maybe then. Am I writing dot then? So dot then is going to take a result, just like the other one, result. Okay. So the result is going to maybe let's consult the result that is also the result. And don't be confused by what I'm saying a result is. I say that result is what we give on the resolve. Maybe when we're resolving something which is a success, we give something. So I'm renaming it as a result over here. So it's going to call what I passed there as that string. So okay, after that, I want this code. After maybe executing the first task, I'm going to call another one. Like I'm going to return another function from this point. So I'm going to say return task 2. So I'm calling it. So okay, it's going to be corrected when we start returning task 2. So let's define what maybe the talking about I'm missing it, the reject. So yes, let's handle the reject. So the reject, we are handling it. Okay, we have reject. Okay. We'll miss out handling reject because I think we'll just focus that maybe everything went on smoothly because these are blocking code. If anything is a return, I'm saying result, return. So if anything happens by mistake, maybe if this will maybe have an error, it will block others from executing as well. So you're not going to have the reject because when something is blocking, we assume that everything is going to work fine. Yeah. So let's handle the second one, that is dot. I think I better have all these things ordered this way for clarity and maybe readability, because I did mention that handling things this way, like it promises going to enhance readability. The second one is going to say results. So the result, okay, results. So we have in the console.log the results. Okay, and then after the second task is complete, I want us to return task 3, right? So after this, which task are we? So this is the second task. It was calling this task. So after this, we are calling task 3. So of which task 3 will have to say dot then, because it's also a promise. So dot then, okay, we say it's going to take a result. So it's going to take a result. Okay, so console.log. So the result. Okay, I know this one is much like confusing than the other one. Okay, we have handled the then. Okay, I see it's better that we handle maybe an error that maybe I think at some point a user deserves maybe to understand maybe an error occurred. Because if I say that the non-blocking one does not take maybe the reject, so what if an error maybe by mistake happens? So let's just include the catch one, dot catch. So the dot catch will maybe take something like an error. Sorry, so an error. So the error on console does not. I think we defined an error in our code. I'll check that. It's going to be that's an error. Okay. So let's say we define our rejects. Yeah, we defined them. So we said reject is going to say maybe something like task 3 is incomplete because some error occurred. So, and I'm renaming that as error or ERR over here. So let me execute this code and also then try and explain it again. Then we come back to our last part. Let's wait 5 seconds. Task 1 is complete. Okay. 2 is complete. We never had the third one. What's the problem? Okay, 1 is complete. Okay, I never invoked it. So I think this is my problem. Okay, let me just again run the code. Expect all of them to work. So let's run again after 5 seconds. You have task 1 is complete. And then after first task is complete, it's going to call the other one. Then it's going to call the other one. So you see, this is how now you can block things from happening, whereby some other things has to happen before other things happen. So you can use these formats. So I was saying task 1, then maybe, but then I'm saying, okay, can you resolve at this point? And then after that, can you call the second task? So this like now calling the second. Sorry, I'm commenting it an SQL. I'm sorry. So maybe this now calling task 2. Let me just comment this. So like after execution of the first task is going to call the second one. After execution of this, the second one is going to call the third one. So this is the beauty of promises. You can see that things are now aligned, not like the other one whereby things were like in a messy way. So you can see you can read through the code. It's some kind of presentable rather than the callback hell. I think I still have the code. So this was the callback hell over here. You see how the structure of the callback hell was. A lot of curly brackets and braces that can even cause more confusion. Okay, I think we are going to the last part that I never wrote notes also on async and await. Okay, so we're going to cover async and await by calling data from an API. Okay. Okay, the data that I'm going to call, I think I think it over here. Let me try and clean. Okay, we have this API that's fetching the cat fact from Ninja. So let me share first this on the chat so that people can maybe try out using this after the chat over here. So this is an API that you can use to maybe practice your JavaScript. Maybe let me paste it over here. Okay, so you'll practice with that maybe after the session. So let me try and refresh. You see, we are given some other facts about cats. So refreshing it again. So it's an API that on refresh is going to fetch other maybe another fact about cats. So we're going to learn more things about fetching data from APIs and the beauty of APIs of maybe how it's going to make our work as web developers very simple. So let's go and maybe define the async and await. The async await. I'm going to write this async await.js. So we have to handle the async and await. So let me close the others. So and the async and await is other way of maybe some kind of added something added on promises. So it's like now better of writing async and await rather than writing promises. So you see, as more we advance, the more the software development world advances. So we're going to have many and so many things maybe also coming like async and await. So they were not there and then they just came. So we're going to at least demo how maybe you can fetch data from an API, how you can catch an error, maybe an error occurs, and yeah, we call it a session. So I'm trying to keep the time that we said. So we said we're going to have only 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I'm going to maybe do this in the next 10 minutes. I'll be done so that we can take the questions and maybe also we can share what we've learned. Okay. Okay, we have to define the async and await. Maybe let's so we are fetching data from an API. So let's call that fetch cat fact. So let me say fetch cat fact. So I'm trying to write a function. I think these are the one. Then we're going to write the async. Some we are seeing what the spelling async. Yeah, this is the spelling. Okay. Then we are calling it. So, and I'm using the arrow functions because I feel arrow functions are simpler to use and it doesn't fill many things on your code. So this is how you define async and await, by the way. Like you have to define a variable that's going to take maybe when you talk about async, it's like saying asynchronous, something asynchronous that will take some time for it to execute. So anything that is going to happen, they want to maybe store those things on this variable known as the fetch cat fact. Okay. Uh, so when you're using the async and await, so you will have to use the try and catch blocks. So with promises, we are using the resolve and reject. So when you say try, it's like maybe you want to resolve something, and when we try and catch some things whenever something is rejected or some error occurs. So we're going to say try. So try. So want to try something. So maybe you try. Maybe let's define a variable inside here. Maybe const a condition that will have this as response, but you can call whatever you like. So this is the const response is equals to await. You're awaiting a fetch. So when you're trying to fetch some kind of data, so this is how you write it. So you have to fetch something. So let me just go and get the URL. I still have it. Test it. Yeah, I still have it. So so these are synchronous things so that it has to await. So before maybe calling the function, it has to wait for it to uh, maybe to fetch the data. So to fetch one of the cat fact. So and whenever it fetches something, it's going to be given of the response. Okay. Okay. Let's handle maybe what happens if maybe an error occurs. So it's a good thing maybe to handle things like this error occurs. So if maybe not a response is not okay, maybe saying maybe the response is not okay, we have a dot not okay something on JavaScript, something also some kind of we don't know if it's maybe an inbuilt something. yeah, it's going to check if this response is not like okay, it's going to throw an error so that the user can maybe understand what happened. So let's handle that error. Okay, that's going to say you throw a new error. So because you are defining something, an error. So this error is like the other errors that you will be having. So you are defining something that maybe it must be the bigger E. So let's have it. Maybe the error that's going to tell somebody is tell that failed to uh, fetch, you failed to fetch that fact. So we are done with that. So maybe after the response has been given from the fetch, I want us maybe first of all to have the data. Okay, so after maybe getting response, okay, let's have the data. So or maybe let's show people what response is going to give. Let's consult the log out what response is. It's going to give some dummy data. When you have something that you've not converted into JSON, you're going to have some dummy data, like some weird stuffs. Okay, you have an error somewhere. Yes, because I'm not executing some part of the code. Okay, like I'm not calling the function. Yeah, I'm not handling the catch. You see, just have to maybe complete everything. So let me just comment on this so that we can handle it maybe after fetching the data. So maybe after getting the response, you have to convert that response to a JSON. So you have to define another const, maybe data. Because data is equals to await. You await the response dot JSON. So converting. Is somebody
A question,
speaking?
please.
Okay.
Okay, it's over
Proceed.
on that is speaking. So I have question at line 4.
At line
If
4.
it's not
Okay.
response, it's okay.
Okay, come up. What is saying?
Okay, at that line 4, why is that not response dot okay? Why is it in bracket?
So this is an if statement. So you're asking why is it in a bracket?
Yes.
Okay, when executing something on an if statement, I think let me just define something here. When maybe we had some if statements, so you find out maybe you're saying if, maybe then we're checking that, like maybe say has passed, maybe test. So you can see as passed test was given in a bracket, maybe some brackets part of it. So an if statement is always going to take something in a bracket part of it. So just a normal if statement. Okay, is it still confusing that having it over here? We can just also, by the way, like we can get rid of this part of it, but all it's a convention that if you handle this part of maybe let's say somebody forgot to add a T on the cat fact, for example, uh, this part is not going to execute if you don't add it, because by adding this part of it, it's going to check that was the fetching of the data maybe effective or that's correct. So maybe somebody somewhere maybe forgets to route something maybe of this correctly. You'll find that you will wish to maybe check first if the response, response that we really await. So that's kind of a thing. So maybe who was talking, maybe I never even took my name. Hello.
Okay, thank you. Clear now. Yeah, it's clear now.
Okay. So whenever whenever the response we get is not correct, or maybe not something we anticipated for, we're going to throw a new error. So a new error some kind of also comes with a thing and a wait. So that's where you're gonna throw some error saying that you failed to maybe fetch the cat fact. So let's consume the data that we get from the API. Maybe is it good for us to console? Let's console and log out, and then we shall maybe view it on the browser. And then we see we're going to consume the data that we get whenever we convert it to JSON. Okay, we still have some errors over here, so we've not captured the catch. So where we handling the catch? So the data. Okay, if I still remember, I think the data had some kind of some facts. So I'm going to demo this with the browser so that you can see why I'm using a fact over here. So it's it's an object that contains some data over it. So I'm teaching a singer weight in a way that's not supposed to be, though it's maybe, but I'm going to take you through where the fact came from. So the catch, so maybe you're going to also handle the catch. So the a singer weight has to, it takes to, maybe it tries to it try something, want to try something. If that something that you're trying is not maybe a success, you are going to catch some error, because so that's the beauty of promises that I said is going to handle two parts. Going to handle, sorry, I'm writing here. So we're going to handle maybe the try blocks. That if some error occurs on the way, because calling an API, some API endpoints have some issues. So we want our user like to get to understand what really happened. So that's why you're using the catch block. So console.log, maybe error message. So that's the message is what we had given earlier. So that way we define if the response is not okay. So error dot message. Okay. Let me check if we're having any syntax issue. I think everything is sorted. So I'm going to run this first on the terminal. If it works on the terminal, then we now take it to the browser and then explain where I got the facts. And then, yeah, I'll link the presentation over there. So let me list the node, okay, node sync and await. Let's check it. You see, there was some cat fact that was fetched from the API data. Maybe a cat has more bones than a human being. So maybe you are trying to call it to run it again. You see, cats only have sweat using their words. You see, I'm fetching different data from the API. So we can demo this on the browser and then so that you can have an explanation of maybe where did I get the data dot something. Okay, there was this kind of console.log out the response. So you said a response, some kind of data that not converted to JSON. And check that. Here is it. You see, if you fail to convert something to maybe a JSON, this is what you're going to get. And you'll be wondering why are you not fetching data correctly, because you never converted your response to JSON data. So the way of that after maybe fetching something from an API, you convert it to JSON. So we want to preview what we've done here on the browser or maybe on the console of the browser, and then we call it a day. Let me create an index with HTML. Okay. So I'm just going to name this Async. Yeah, now I'm missing out on spelling. So what is the spelling? Async. Okay. Then the script tag, we're going to have it over here. So the script tag, going to reference the async and await. So I think we're linking everything correct. We're having 8 minutes. Let me try and run it. Go live so that you can see what really happens when fetching that on the API. And as I do this, if somebody has a question, please, this is the time to ask. I'm going to share the resource here. You can see, yeah, it's here. You can see the data that I'm fetching. I reload it. Takes some time. So that's why I was telling you that asynchronous JavaScript is something that's going to take some time to execute. So as you can see, the data is being fetched. I refresh it. It takes some time, then some data is given to us. So that's asynchronous JavaScript. If there's some operation taking place, like fetching data from an API, or maybe querying the databases, is always like some kind of maybe something that JavaScript has to handle first. And when it's handling it, we don't want JavaScript to break our JavaScript to break our code. So I wanted to demo where I got the data.facts. So we want to get where I got that. We're going to say console.log the data. Sorry, I'm supposed to give it here. Console.log the data. Save that. Okay. So you see, we have, so in the data, we have something like a fact. So this is an object. So I was referencing to the fact because the fact has some data of it. So when you say the fact that unhealthy something, you see, unhealthy cat has something. So you are switching this fact over here. I refresh it again, going to be the same thing. So we'll still have more sessions to maybe how APIs works and maybe how we can fetch data and consume the API itself. Yeah, up to that point, yeah, that was the end of our session today. So we have learned some callbacks and promises, and I hope that at this point we are able to handle the asynchronous JavaScript, whereby we execute we can execute codes like so whenever some other operations are taking place, we can execute other codes. So yeah, I'll be sharing the links to my GitHub where you can find all these codes whereby you can practice them. And yeah, with any question, please reach out. Yeah, we are available on the